What's really good, everybody? Welcome and thank you for listening to Just Bleed Radio. I'm LazyBed, and you're locked into the meetup after the melee, the post-scrap recap. It's the Weekend Roundup, episode 75. Good fucking evening to you folks. Thank you again for choosing to spend part of your Monday night with JBR. It's fantastic as always to have you. We'll go ahead and get started. But as we do, pound the like and subscribe buttons. We finally hit 200, but now the long march to 300 begins. Now, you already know who I got rolling along with me, so I'll go ahead and remind you anyways. My first co-host is our UK correspondent. He steers the ship on 50% of these episodes. It's my buddy, Danger Mouse. DM, how's things in Yorkshire?
Cold and wet, to be honest. But yeah, looking forward to talking some fights.
Cold and wet here also, yeah. It's that time of year, I guess.
Great.
All right, and my second co-host, he's our West Coast correspondent here in the States, straight out of California. My pal, Austin. No special. How is life in the Pacific time zone?
Well, it's that time of year. We don't get like super cold weather out here necessarily, but it's always foggy and it's fall and shopping for Christmas is right around the corner. So I'm ready to talk some fights and yeah, all good time. I'm
gonna be distraught for the rest of the episode because you brought that up. I haven't even thought of that yet. Goodness. People are already putting their fucking trees up. I mean, come on, man. Give me a minute. All right. Well, I'm happy to hear it, guys. And I'm happy to have you here. So let's go ahead and talk some fights. We'll start with the main card, beginning with the opening bout and working our way up. There's not a lot of substance here, but we'll do our best to extract some interesting content for the bleeders. Also a small heads up to our listeners and viewers. We're going to try something a little bit different today. As opposed to simply reviewing and giving our opinions of these fights, I'm also going to pit Austin and Mouse against each other, sort of. Now, for the entirety of this main card recap, fellows will each represent a very distinct side. Danger Mouse will represent the winning parties, and he will provide us with what I'm referring to as the thrill of victory. No special. He will speak on behalf of the losing fighters, and he'll offer us a glimpse into the agony of defeat. They've both been informed of this. They both know what's going down here. But how's that sound, guys? What do you think of this?
This is going to be a fun one, I think.
ready. I'm ready for my defense team.
I'm glad you both agreed to this because this is like a last-minute idea on my part. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. Could be a new thing.
I get, 5 opportunities to call Austin a loser. So, yeah, why not?
Oh, fuck you. Hey, I'm not the one that's in last place on the draft team, so come on.
Ooh. Jeez, low blow.
Hey, I had to get it in.
All right, well, let's get straight into it then. Let's go into the main card opener. And for that opener, we will journey to the land of flyweights, where 34-year-old Brazilian vet Alan Nascimento would take on a fellow 34-year-old in American donk, Cody Durden. Neither of these guys light up the scoreboard exactly or spark fan excitement, but after about 8 minutes of fight time, we would see Nascimento wrap up Durden's big-ass head in a watertight anaconda choke. It was a nice sub-win for the man fighting out of Sao Paulo. Now, I don't got a whole bunch to add to this, so Danger Mouse, you are Alan Nascimento. You walk out of here with the win. You score your 16th career submission. You now move to 4-1 in the UFC, and you're on a 4-fight win streak. You're also $50,000 richer. Woohoo! So, how are you feeling about that performance, and what kind of opponent are you maybe looking for next?
Okay, well, I haven't looked at an opponent for Alan at all. I'm not even sure where he's ranked. But as far as the fight goes, this was a kind of a funny one to start with. Nascimento was the clear favourite, or I was, if you want to take that line. Durden taking the fight at really short notice, and although he won the fight, Nascimento wasn't exactly looking that great. He was delivering some great leg kicks. He should be very happy with that side of his game, because I checked and he landed 26 out of 29. So God knows what Cody Durden's walking around like this morning. That must have been there. And then he was slightly, but he was behind in accuracy and volume against Durden. And then round two, he started to do a little bit better. He did start to take the centre of the cage at times, but he was still getting pushed back by Cody a lot of the time. And then that great forward pressure by Durden, it was looking really, really, really good until Alan caught him with that elbow as he stepped in. And then he was stunned. And then Durden made the terrible mistake of diving for his legs. And as you said, Nascimento locked up the anaconda choke. And that was all she wrote. So touch late for me because I had him getting this fight done in the first round. But yeah, on the whole, a good performance by Alan, I think. His striking's still a bit of a work in progress. He keeps his chin way too high. But yes, it was a solid performance. A B+, I would guess. I don't know, something like that, if you want to go that kind of scoring way. And an enjoyable enough fight. I did enjoy rewatching it this morning. So yeah, no complaints from me.
I know. I, for one, I was pretty shocked to realize that he's 4-1 in the UFC, and now now on a 4-fight win streak. Like I remember him fighting a couple of times. Vaguely, he hasn't really ever stood out to me, but that's a pretty solid record for
Yeah,
a UFC record. You know what I mean? Especially
absolutely.
under the radar like that, unexpected. All right, well, agony of defeat time, no special. You are unfortunately Cody Durden here, and you fall to seven. You fall to 17, 9, and 1 in your career. You've now gone 6, 7, and 1 in the UFC. 6 of those 7 losses have been you getting finished. Go figure. The only loss of yours in the UFC that you didn't get finished was against Joshua Van. What are the fuck chances of that? But yeah, your lone win in the last 6 bouts came against the withered shell of Matt Schnell. Whew, that's tough. So what has been going wrong for you lately here, Cody Durden? And at this point in your career, what's the next move?
Well, if you look at the fight, you could see that he kind of took the opportunity as it was. Like, all right, I get to take on this tough out in Alan Nascimento, short notice. That's why the catch weight was there. And that seemed to kind of help him a little bit because, like, he was boxing pretty well. And it wasn't that he had the cleanest boxing. Matter of fact, he kind of had some kind of lackadaisical boxing. But he was landing to the body, landing up top, confusing Nascimento, and like Luke Rockhold sometimes did. The Mouse had alluded to it. He kind of keeps his chin out sometimes, kind of leaves his head hanging as he's striking. And a handful of times, Durden was able to come across from the guard under his guard and just kind of come over the top of it and just kind of catch him. It wasn't that he was hurting Nascimento, but he was catching him, and you could see Nascimento have to kind of reset, readjust, and come forward. And Durden was doing well on the feet, but he took way too long to engage in the grappling department because both times he gets hurt in the first and in the second, he does desperation wrestling, and it seems kind of off, like off the desperation of being hurt. And you can see that, like you can see him working his boxing, having success, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh shit." A much bigger man has hit me. I need to desperately take him down. You can see him just kind of like holding on for dear life. And then it's like he was doing well on the feet. I think he should have mixed it up a little bit more because he left himself open to big counter shots sometimes. And I think the problem that you could say is that Durden is that dude, like it or not, he's going to get in your face. Like it or not, he's capable of pushing your pace to better suit him and push you past your limits. I mean, we saw that in the Joshua Van fight. Like he was pushing Van, and Van wasn't able to finish him, but he fucking stayed in the fight. Like that's the one thing you can say about Durden. That dude's conditioned. He showed up, he was in shape, but it was a short notice fight. So it's like, if you're willing to take short notice fights, you have to understand that you are taking a disadvantage immediately to not knowing what your opponent is. What your opponent's going to bring to the table, what your opponent is ready for. Now, it's also counter to that is like, you're taking on a short notice opponent. And sometimes you've had a camp specifically for one person, but sometimes it's, that all goes out the window because it's a new opponent. And you're like, ah, shit, oh, whatever. If you're still capable, you should be able to find a way to win. If Durden had taken a regular scheduled fight, he might have won. He might have pushed the pace on Nascimento. He might have continued with the boxing. But at some point, Durden's whole thing is, well, I have incredible cardio, so I can take a big punch. Well, you shouldn't want to take big punches. That should be something that's clear and present. You should not want to take big punches because he was doing well, and he still kind of like stood in front of Nascimento and then just gets clipped with that elbow, and you could just see the consistency of his game plan just went out the window, and you're like, ah, shit. And that's when that desperation takedown comes in, because it's a much better, much bigger grappler takes him down and just manhandles him. And you could see that he fights it and he doesn't really have much to offer in defense. And it's because Nascimento's a much better grappler. He's been at this a little longer, but, I would say, Durden's fought probably more consistently higher level competition than Nascimento has. But at the same time, it's like, you cannot be trading wins and losses, especially if you're taking short notice fights, because eventually you will take more losses in the short term than you will in the long term. It's just going to happen that way. He's lucky he's a consistently action-oriented fighter. Otherwise, he probably would have been let go by this point. And if you're looking at Cody Durden as a guy that you want to see again, I'm not sure why you would, but you might expect him to take more short notice fights and possibly take lower totem fights similar to this one, where he's just going to be coming off of a loss, taking a short notice fight, and then getting his ass kicked at some point during the fight. If my advice was to him, it would be to take your time, get back into shape, and actually plan out a fight ahead of time, and hopefully against an opponent that isn't higher ranked. I don't believe Cody's ranked, but if he is, this is not looking good for him.
He is not ranked, but I kind of think that that sooner or later that you were discussing it may be kind of be because this is now 3 losses in a row for him. 3 losses in a row. 34 years old at flyweight. Do they let him possibly take a potential 4th loss in a row and keep him on the roster, or do you think it's time that they axe Cody here? Because I mean, there's not much upside to them keeping him around.
Off to the PF.
Well, you need the guys for the division. That's the problem. Is like you can't really cut too many guys from flyweight. As thin as flyweight is, it's not as thin as heavyweight or light heavyweight, but you still need the bodies because Pantoja needs contenders. You need people to kind of cycle through. If Cody wasn't action oriented, they probably would have let him go. You know what I mean? But
Wow. I mean, let's look at this. This is his last 6 fights. He gets subbed by Tagir Ulanbekov in 2023. He gets TKO'd by Bruno Silva in 2024. He gets a win over Matt Schnell, also in 2024. Then he loses to Joshua Van, the unanimous decision. He gets TKO'd by Jose Ochoa, and now he's gotten anaconda by Alan Nascimento. So I don't know. I mean, I think they might cut Cody. I know this was a short notice thing, and he kind of did them a favor here, but
yeah,
they don't love flyweights. They don't give flyweights much benefit of the doubt.
Might depend on how many fights he's got left in his contract.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, his contract depends. Well, then again, they don't really like to honor contracts when they have to.
Well, that's a good segue there, because speaking of no honor, we got to talk about a guy next who has no honor himself. And that man's name is Charles Radke, because from there it was up to 170 for a welterweight scrap between 35-year-old Chuck Cuccolo, a.k.a. Charles Radke, and 31-year-old Romanian-Italian Daniel Frunza. Chuck the Cuck, he was looking to bounce back off of a loss to Mike Malott in May, and bounce back he would, scoring a late 3rd round rear naked and moving his record to 11-5. Frunza, he falls to 9-4 now, with 2 losses in a row to the Cuckster that we previously mentioned, and Reese McKee. Ugh, jeez, what a couple of bad losses those are. Anyways, once again, I don't have a whole lot to add here, other than I will say I am happy that Radke didn't say anything atrocious on the mic afterwards, so that's always a win. And so, my homeboy Austin here, you're in the corner of Daniel Frunza. like I was just saying, yeah, you're in his corner, buddy. You better be ready for this. So, like I was just saying, it's been an ugly start in the UFC, dropping both of your first two fights to weak competition. Weak competition. An interesting stat here: 3 of Frunza's 4 losses have come by rear naked choke. So, pretty clear. Thanks, Kat. Pretty clear chink in the armor there. Dealing with the rear naked chokes. What do you think, though? What could Daniel Frunza have done differently here against Chuck?
You want me to be honest, or you want me to be hopeful? Because I could do both.
Start out. Give us a little bit of, yeah. Give us a little bit of the hopeful, and then be real with us, Coach.
All right. He's not an athlete, but he's capable. You could tell he had some, some fire in his heart. Some willingness to engage. Like you could tell he's trying. And at a bare minimum, if you're not trying, what the fuck are we doing here? You know what I mean? And he was up against a much better athlete. And at a bare minimum, if you are a better athlete, that just kind of gives you a lot more leg up in this kind of, organization. Because it makes it easier when you have natural ability as opposed to just kind of being a guy who has to kind of work harder for other things. He seems to be a guy with a lot of moxie or a lot of like potential. And it's not that you can say that he's outright going to lose every single fight if it's a better fighter or an athlete, but you can see that he's not willing to just give up. And I think that's the one thing you can say about him that's like, okay, despite, losing the almost three rounds, like he went out there and he fucking tried, like he never really tried to relent ground, and he was constantly trying to fight positions as most as he could. And Radke was kind of like just doing the rinse and repeat, like big punches, takedowns, ground and pound, looking for submissions. And Frunza defended a lot of that shit. Like you could tell he was losing, but he wasn't giving up. And I think that gives you a lot of leeway to give him opportunity, despite not being up to snuff in certain areas. And I think that's something you could say positively. However, this is a sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, let's just be fucking honest here, man. Like he's not UFC level. Like, he's not, and I hate to say that because I would be the one cheering for my guy if like I have to. It's like, hey, that's my fucking fighter. Why? He's not. He's not. He was brought in last minute off the Contender Series, and even then, it's like I don't even think he actually like looked good in any of his fights. Like, what was it? He fucking fought the Irish kid who had been constantly facing competition and losing, right? And he beat the fuck out of Frunza. And
Reese
I
McKee.
couldn't.
Yep.
Reese McKee,
Skeletor.
thank you. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And he was just battering this dude from pillar to post. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my God, this kid. I'm just watching a mugging in there. Like, if you look at Frunza, you can tell he's not an athlete. And I think that hurts him in this weight class specifically because he just doesn't know how to defend himself. Like he eats punches way too often. He can't really defend the takedown very well. I mean, he has kind of like a dad bod on him, so I'm imagining he's probably just walking around close to 180, maybe 190 between that range to make 170. And that's probably not the best deal for him because he could probably be a lightweight and be capable. This is a guy who you could probably make 155 and maybe 165 pounds and probably be more competitive in those divisions because he's not facing a fucking giant human being in Charles Radke who's just gonna fucking manhandle him. And that probably is the case in 55 as well, but he'll have a better chance. But he might actually get dinged up a lot worse. So it just depends. I mean, from one Shark Tank of a division to another Shark Tank of a division, it doesn't matter. He's screwed either way because he's facing much better competition than he's faced on any regional scene that he's been competing in. Like this dude is not UFC caliber, and I hate to say that because like if you've made it there by one way or another, whether you deserved it or not, you're there. And he's finding out the hard way. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you're good. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you're capable. It doesn't matter if you have a really big heart. It if you can't produce results meaningfully, you are not a guy who should be in there, and that's kind of the problem. This is also the problem with bringing in guys, that don't have a whole lot of experience or a whole lot of like regional experience, because sometimes they're just actually not ready. And I don't like Radke, I'll be honest, but he deserved the win, the hand over fist, and I would prefer him not to speak on the mic more often, if I'm going to be honest. But that's not a here or there. I was meant to defend Daniel Franza, and if you could say anything to your guy, it'd be like, you win, you almost went the distance. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, he held on. He held on pretty well. Held on, lasted as long as he possibly could. Okay, but he held on really well, and he did at least make a solid accounting of his constitution and his mental durability, because a lot of guys probably would have cracked a lot sooner, probably would have given up their neck, and probably would have got subbed a lot quicker. But it is what it is. We'll see if we see Mr. Daniel Franza again. Daniel Franza was not a lot of funza. So.
Oh, how dare you! The betrayal.
Okay, well, it is Thrill of Victory time, guys. Danger Mouse, you are representing Chuck Buffs here. You're 35 years old. You don't have the most amazing record overall, but you have managed to go 4-2 in the world's leading MMA organization. Obviously, your ceiling isn't the roof, but what did you like in his performance here? And give me a name, since you didn't give me one last time. You got one, anyone from this division that would make a fun fight here for Chuck Buffalo. Not high stakes. It doesn't have to be anyone ranked or nothing like that, but just a fun fight for Chuck Buffalo.
You're asking me to look into ranks. I'm going to have to go on Tapology here and check rankings.
All right, well, we can skip that part. It don't matter. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, for the fight itself, Radke looked absolutely fantastic. He looked great in round one. He only waited about a minute or two before he took Franza down, and then he just battered him with ground and pound. I think Franza did manage to escape that situation, but he just ended up with Radke taking his back and trying for the choke. And at the end of the round one, he had that really deep sub attempt. I have no idea how Franza survived, because it looked like Radke did have his arm deep into his neck. So, yeah, credit to the guy for that. I think he was there for like 90 seconds or something. Like, how are you surviving? But then round two, it was just more control from Radke again. Push Franza up against the cage. Did land a beautiful little sweep to get the action to the ground again. I love seeing stuff like that. He just turned him ever so slightly, just knocked his feet out from underneath him. And then he just stayed mostly inside Franza's guard for most of that round. Again, he just battered him, really bloodied him up. And this was the one I had to check the referees' scores, the judges' scores for this one, because I thought this was a really, really dominant round. But only one judge, Unichiro Kamijo, I probably pronounced that horribly wrong, but my apologies, but he or she did score it 10-8, which was the correct score for that round. Then again, round three was just rinse and repeat from the previous two rounds. Career best in takedowns and control time for Radke. Just an overall great dominant performance. And he got the cherry on top with the final minute submission. And as you said, a nice 50k bonus too.
Yeah.
I had to put in my notes. I had him down as 34, and I was saying he's going to have to work hard to get into the top 15. So yeah, I really don't know any. Austin might be able to suggest someone for him, but I'll pass the ball on that one. Pass the buck, Austin. Give me a welterweight that's above 50.
Actually, let me butt in there, because Austin doesn't get to address anything to do with this man. Austin has nothing to do with this fella. But why don't we just do some lazy matchmaking? We can go to one of the earlier prelims, and we'll find ourselves a little welterweight down there. Why don't we match up Chuck Buffalo with the South Korean So Kyun Ko, the guy that beat Phil Rowe?
Yeah, could do.
Why not? It's just easy, both on the same timeline.
Yeah, nowhere near the rankings. Might as well.
Exactly. Basic, another no-name, slap him in the Apex fight. Fuck it.
Hoorah.
But yeah, it is a win for Chuck Buffs, unfortunately. All right. Well, guys, let's take a step back here. Let's buckle up, because this is about to get a little bit bumpy. This ride's about to get a little bit bumpy, because, gentlemen, we have now what was supposed to be a quick jaunt down to featherweight for the unassuming pairing of the undefeated Cuban Yadier Del Valle and Kansas City, Missouri's Isaac Dulgarian. That didn't happen though. This was not just an unassuming pairing because some things went down, folks. This is basically among the biggest stories that have occurred since we started this show. So much so that I don't really even know where to begin with this. But I frankly, I think we could and may have to dedicate an entire Sunday Night Scuffle to this. We might have to bring back Sunday Night Scuffle just for this situation. But nevertheless, I'll try to give the long and the short here. Guys, we got a fixed fight. We had a fixed fight last night. Isaac Dolgarian, a former pupil, pal, and schoolmate of infamous coach James Krause, a member of Krause's former gym, who happened to be on the last fight of his contract, was set to take on Yadier Del Valle. And in the days leading to this fight, multiple sportsbooks flagged suspicious activity regarding bets. Large bets, in fact, several, all coming in on Del Valle, many by first-round finish. Suspicion elevated to the point that the betting lines were pulled from multiple outlets days prior to this fight. And on top of that, it said that a number of these sportsbooks were alerted by the authorities, including the FBI and other federal regulators, to inform them of these flag bets well prior to fight time. However, many continued to allow money to roll in, with a sizable portion of that coming in during the final hours leading to the fight. As opposed to the bout being pulled from the card, it was allowed to move forward. As of this recording, several of these betting agencies find themselves proactively issuing credit refunds in an effort to save their integrity among bettors who now feel they're gambling on a rigged sport. Now, I can give numbers for the line movement, but that won't mean much to many listening. So I'll just say like this. This was the most extreme and latest occurring line movement since the last time this type of situation occurred, which was when Derek Minner threw his fight for James Krause. On top of all this, Isaac Dolgarian, the man who's suspected of being involved in whatever nefarious activities here, Isaac Dolgarian was on MMA Junkie just a handful of days ago, where he gave an interview in which he explicitly stated fighters should receive a portion of sports bets. I should also mention I'm hearing that over 100 UFC bouts have been flagged this year by federal regulators, including 2 additional fighters on this Saturday's card. So, boys, there is much to unpack in this situation. I could do the whole show just on this because this shit fucking interests the shit out of me. But regardless, I'm going to kick it to you two. This is the only one we won't be doing a thrill of victory or agony of defeat on. But I'm going to pass it to you first, Danger Mouse, so be prepared. Set aside all the betting stuff here. Set aside all the betting stuff and the possible legal issues. You don't have to tackle that. This was still just a weird fight all around. Dolgarian, with his back taken, a full body triangle locked in around his waist, Del Valle cinching in a choke, and he's punching behind his head instead of fighting the hands. I was perplexed by it. The commentary was perplexed by it. I'm sure you were probably, a bit confused watching it back. So what do you think of this fight? What the fuck was going on? What do you got to say?
Well, I'm going to have to start following my own rules because Yadier Del Valle, if I'm pronouncing that right, it was a 9-0 fighter before this, and I didn't pick him, and I always pick the O. And but in this one, it was Dolgarian who initiated that grappling, and boy, was that a bad mistake. Or if it wasn't a rigged fight, I don't know if it was or not. Del Valle just looked absolutely massive for a featherweight. I could see why he was handling Dolgarian so easy. He just started sticking that ground and pounding, and then allowed Dolgarian to make that mistake. But yeah, it was curious why he wasn't defending the hands more. I've never been in a real MMA fight in my life, and even I know that if there's a danger of getting some kind of choke coming in, you baseball back, grip that arm, and you do not fucking let go of it until the end of the round, if necessary, because that way you will not get choked out. So yeah, very fast fight, didn't last very long. So other than the stuff that we're not going to talk about in this show, no, I didn't have very much to say on it. The guy looked really, really good, but I don't know now whether there's suspicion behind how he won the fight. Not saying that he's involved in it, but obviously, if the other guy has thrown the fight, it looks pretty shit on your record.
Man, yeah, because and that's the other side of this too. I'm glad you pointed that out because this sucks for Del Valle because now he's embroiled in something that I don't personally think he had any idea was going on. I don't think he was clued in on this. I don't think he was uh, benefiting from whatever the fuck went down on the Delgarian side. I think he was under the impression he was in a fight here, and he probably feels he rightfully won that fight, which he did. But now we got all these question marks because it
Well, I believe that's the way that Pride did it anyway. When they were rigging the fights, when the Yakuza were involved,
right,
they would
yeah.
only give they give money to one guy. The guy who's winning does not need to know that the fight is rigged.
Yep, because then it at least looks 50% real on one side.
Yeah,
it's just it's a strange thing because I don't know how this is going to shake out for him. I don't know if this bout will be overturned, expunged from the records. Like I don't. It's going to be a strange situation, and there's just so much to talk about here because this goes way deeper even than just the sport of MMA. This delves much deeper into other issues that we have going on right now in other sports simultaneously, where the sports betting entities in the United States right now, and I guess internationally in a lot of countries, they're really under fire. We could see some big changes coming now. Fortunately for them, they have a president here in the States that is going to work with them and do more than others may have done to that would harm them. It's just a peculiar situation. It's going to be very strange to see what happens with these sports betting entities and the sport of mixed martial arts moving forward, because hearing a lot of things. So anyway, same to you, Austin. No agony of defeat for you here, but what did you make of this fight, man? Just the fight itself, it was a very strange, peculiar fight. So high likelihood this is the last time we ever see Isaac Dolgarian. Do you got any actual fight analysis on this one?
Well, it's funny you say that because I just kind of figured I looked at Isaac Delgarian and just thought he was kind of a overcompensating wrestler. Like you could tell he was capable as an athlete, but you could see he was very limited on the way he was able to get the grappling going. His only real attack on it was just kind of like blast double, look for a single, and then pick up his opponent. And you know, unfortunately, he faced somebody that was actually capable in the grappling department and slightly bigger than him. In wrestling, it's not so much the size as much as this strength and skill. But you could see that his opponent, Valde, like literally just handled the grappling a lot better. And then even then, you're kind of looking at this fight like, all right, well, one guy just doesn't really know how to defend the submissions because you could see it went all the way to the end of the round almost, and he's handling the hands a little bit. He's kind of letting him cinch in on one side and then fight it and look around and then go back to the other way because he was in that figure four lock for a good portion of the fight. And it's not that he was getting pummeled to death, but it wasn't looking good. Like if you were to tell me without context, what I thought of the fight, like everything surrounding the outside of it, like oh yeah, the wrestler faced somebody who was a little bit well rounded and just got handled. That's what that looked like to me. An inexperienced wrestler that wanted to be an MMA fighter, you know, found himself against a guy who was more capable than he was, and it looked like it. That's that's what I thought on my first thought of it. That's why when I asked you, I was like, oh wow, I guess there is some controversy to this, huh? Oh, yeah, really? I don't see any controversy. And then all of a sudden, you kind of see him fighting his hands in a way that didn't make sense to me, like you said, where DC's even saying on the commentary, just like, why are you punching? Why are you punching? You're just letting him get the choke in. I'm like, I thought that was weird, but again, without the context, you're kind of thinking, oh, he's just inexperienced. He's going to try to punch him so he can get his mind off of the choke and try to defend his face from the punches. But it's not like those punches are going to do anything. If someone's like below you and you're sinking in a submission, that loosens their ability to defend the submission because they're not fighting your hands. They're fighting, their hands are up and above. it allows for the submission to kind of sink in a hell of a lot easier, because usually when you got someone down below and your hips down and your opponent is underneath you, you punch into the choke, right? On the when you're on your back and your opponent is you're sinking in a rear naked from top, he's trying to fight the hands, and and a couple of times I think he grabbed the fingers, but like he legit was just like, like I could think I could poke you, hit you from behind, kind of like how Islam was against Alexander Volkanovski won, but he legit just let the choke go in. So it's kind of like, okay, he was inexperienced, but then you add the context, you're like, oh shit, oh no. Oh God, no. Because you feel bad for the guy who won. The worst case scenario
Yeah.
is they make that a no contest. They may let the win stand, but it might just end up being a no contest anyways. Because how can you let that continue because one guy is associated with extreme lines changing? You know, and like you said, there's a lot we could go into this. We might have to just do the Sunday Scuffle after that, but like, I'm not even kidding, dude. Like, it looked like a no issue fight, and then you add the context to it, and you're like, oh shit, okay.
Hmm. Yeah. It's basically the shortest summary of it all is earlier in the week, information seemed to come out that got a lot of people to start putting down money on Bulgarian. And it was so much money that it started making the sports books suspicious. Some of them took the bets down. Some of them allowed them to stay up. Then what got even stranger and what really raised most of the red flags is in just the few hours before the fight, money really started to come in on Del Valle by first round finish. And that's when it kind of became like, okay, not only do people seem to have a really strong lean that something's going on here, but now they have a very specific idea of what's going to happen. And that's when it really started to get out of hand. And the numbers were like super drastic. Like they changed so much that so to like the point where it would have taken a lot of fucking money for this to happen. So it's just a really weird situation. And yeah, man, it's gonna be one of two things is going to happen. Either this is going to be a big story for several months to come and a lot of big things are going to happen, or much like the last time, this is going to get kind of swept under the rug and we're not going to really hear about this again. So I don't know. It's going to be crazy. Now they got that out of my system, I guess we can move on. All right. Next up was the quote unquote a feature bout of the night. And for it, we went back to welterweight. This one would see ageless wonder Jeremiah Wells tote his 39-year-old body to the cage to square off with 34-year-old adopted son of The Rock, Mr. Temba Garimbo. And this one would go the full 15, and at the bout's commencement, it would be the Philadelphian Wells seeing his hand raised in a decision victory. He now moves up to 13-4-1. That's 5-2 in the UFC. For Garimbo, he drops down to 14-6 and is now on a 2-fight skid. First up on this one, the agony of defeat, as represented by our very own No Special. You are Temba Garimbo. You once had some momentum. Your pal Dwayne Johnson bought you a house. You were stringing together wins. Now things have gone sideways. You drop back-to-back fights. You're aging. People are claiming you're a scam artist. That's a whole different issue, though, so we're not going to get into that. But what should Temba have done differently here in this fight, and where does he go next?
I liked a lot of the stuff he did in this fight. Like, you could argue that he had a bad game plan, but him kind of handling the striking department a little well, in the first 2 rounds, and then trying to counter the wrestling of Wells himself. Like, Wells is probably a more athletic guy, considering that he just blast doubled him in the second and just made it look like he just, football tackled him. Like, he just couldn't stop the takedown. And all of a sudden, Wells is on top just handling him. And that's kind of the story from the second round on. And in the first round, Grimbo was just kind of like, okay, similar to a guy who's like, I'm limited on what I know. I'm coming to this game a little late, but I have a concept of how to fight, and I know how to fight through certain spaces, and that's what it looked like. Two guys who were limited in games, but one guy had the athleticism, the other one did not. And again, like I said, where the athleticism comes in, it helps. Grimbo is not an athlete, but he's a capable fighter. He's not an elite fighter. Don't get me wrong, but he is a guy who has a concept of what to do in certain situations and knows how to fight through those situations. When he found himself in the striking department, he realized that he had the range and he had the distance management going well for him. Wells was having trouble trying to go in there and find his distance and rhythm right off the bat because, Grimbo was in there just kickboxing him, having a decent time and success with it. Like I like that. That's what I found that I appreciated from this game. And then all of a sudden you see him clinching with a much stronger guy, and you're kind of thinking, "What are you doing, my guy? You have the range. Don't engage." But he did. And then he found himself grappling, and he actually took Wells down, which I found great until Wells figured out how to counter the wrestling of Grimbo and just started out wrestling him. Like, damn it, dude, no, you gave him confidence. Now he's just going to wrestle you because that's what he did. And Grimbo got put on his back more times than he should have. Defended the takedown relatively decently, just couldn't commit to defending all of him. And that's what I think that's the thing you can say it was success. I limited my opponent's offense. And Wells doesn't have a whole lot other than a jumping right hand, a couple of low kicks, and takedowns. Like that's all he really has. And Themba couldn't really stop the takedown, so of course he loses the fight. And Wells just had to land a couple more times on the feet that were big, decent shots in order to make it look like he was winning. I felt like this fight you could have it shouldn't have mattered because both of these guys are not going to be top 15 anytime soon. But
Yeah.
the 38-year-old didn't look like he shined tonight, and I thought Themba showed more promise than Wells would. But again, it wasn't enough to win the fight. I'm not saying to Themba if I'm The Rock, well, I want the house back, buddy, because I feel like I've invested something, and unfortunately, it's not paying out. The Rock has to get what he needs. The Rock needs a champion, and then if you're Themba, you're kind of like, well, shit, okay. But I don't know. I didn't think it was a bad performance for Temba Garimbo. I just didn't think it was his best, and it's unfortunate too because he's probably going to get cut if he loses again, despite having The Rock as your corner mate.
I One of the main things that I liked in this fight was Temba's submission defense because he fought off a couple of different like guillotine type chokes, and uh, he's got heart. Like you can't. He might not be the most like technically skilled guy or the most uh sound striker, or he doesn't do anything amazing, but he's got heart and he's got grit and determination, and like I don't know, I feel like even when he loses he makes a decent accounting of himself. So yeah, it's tough. I would hate to see him get cut. He's got a good story. I don't know, maybe he sticks around. Why don't you keep him around for one more? I'll play matchmaker again. Match him up with another loser at welterweight from earlier in the night. Tema Garimbo versus Phil Rowe.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Franza.
Somebody's got to win. All right. Well, speaking of winning and the winning party, our man Danger Mouse, let's take a look at it. You recently just celebrated your 39th birthday, and you've managed to put together a fairly solid record in the promotion. The only real knock is you've been pretty inactive, and you've seen a lot of canceled bouts. Of course, I'm talking about you being the one and only Jeremiah Wells. So, what did you like about your performance here? And do you have any mediocre name in mind to face yourself, or do you like that Phil Rowe call out?
Yeah, Phil Rowe's not bad, to be fair. Although I'm savouring the thrill of victory in this one, I also have the great pleasure in saying that none of us on JBR picked Wells to win this. And in fact, no one on the entire Discord picked Wells to win this fight. And I think you kind of saw why in round one, where he spent most of the round on the bottom, trying to get up after that early takedown from Garimbo. But he did get up at the end of the first round, and that's why the momentum of the fight changed, I guess. round 2, much more interesting, a bit of striking exchanges, and then Garimbo got the first takedown, but Wells managed to get quickly back to his feet, and then he returned the favour with the, as Austin mentioned, the blast double, and then he took him down there, held position for most around, threatened a couple of chokes. I checked the scorecards, and he was credited with one of those. And then the third round, I was hoping we were going to see a bit more fighting, because a bit more striking, because Wells really, really did look good with his hands at the start of the round. I think he actually hurt Garimbo with at least one of the shots. But he decided it was a better option to take the Garimbo down to the ground, maul him, threaten submissions again, credited with 2, easily won that round. Veteran performance by the 39-year-old. Again, it's welterweight. I would have to look at these things. I don't hate the Phil Rowe, or who beat Phil Rowe?
Sokyon Ko, who he matched up against Charles Radke.
No, yeah, of course we did. Yeah, I was going to say you could have put him against him. I was slightly.
Yeah, it's also. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I was minorly confused at the start when I saw this name, because for some reason I confused him with Malcolm Wellmaker, who's a much better bantamweight fighter. I had to check my notes on that one. I was like, why did I confuse him? Who did I confuse him with? Yeah, good performance. Can't really say much else than that. He's not going to get a top 15 chance anytime ever, in all likelihood, at 39 years old. So find him a fun fight.
Yeah, and he's another one of these guys, like I was, kind of saying in the introduction to this fight, like under the radar, nobody kind of noticing it, but 5-2 in the UFC is a solid record, especially for a guy his age who hasn't seen much activity. So
yeah, I did notice that when I was checking for the show. But I think he had about 4, maybe 3 or 4 cancelled fights the last year or 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't really look into the reasons why, but yeah, it's assuming it's on his behalf. Maybe it's something to do with age, injury, build up over his career. I don't know, but 39 years old. I hope they at least get him a couple more fights in there before he calls it a career. I think he still could be a viable challenger for some of the guys on the come up in this division that are looking to make a name for themselves. All right, well, that's going to do it for that. But now we've got another one that unfortunately we have to get into that's probably going to take this show sideways, because it is on to the co-main event. And this co-main event is an old standby, guys. It's 2 fat guys at the Apex. Woohoo! 2 fat guys. It was a journey to the weird and wacky world of heavyweight for some much-needed slop time when number 6 ranked Waldo Cortez Acosta met unranked Ante Dalia to find out just how much man meat an octagon can contain. Well, come to find out, the Apex Octagon can contain not only 500 plus pounds of tubby donks, but also a whole bunch of bullshit too. Jesus Christ. By now, the majority of this topic will be talked to death, but we once again had a series of peculiar events. A flurry occurs in the first. Ante Dalia unloads on Acosta. Referee Mark Smith steps in and calls the fight off. Or does he? The bout gets stopped. We go to a video review, which I might remind you is only available in the event of a stoppage. And what do you know? This fight will restart after all. After a solid 6 to 7 minutes on the stool, Waldo emerges reinvigorated, and despite having already lost a few minutes prior, he rallies for a KO victory. 2 fights in 1. This sport, guys, is an absolute shit show, and we now have even more to debate. But we will keep our theme going. So, Austin, you went from speaking on behalf of Waldo to quickly speaking on the behalf of Dalia in a matter of minutes. You thought... So now here's your situation. You thought you'd won. You celebrated. You experienced all the emotions and the adrenaline dump. Then you're forced to go back in there and do it again. Are you protesting this result? Do you seek a potential overturning? What do you take away from a fight that you literally won and then lost?
Unfortunately, there's a handful of things that you could say, because the ref stepped in, called it. That's it. That's the end of the fight. The fight should not continue afterwards, unless the fight-ending foul is committed. And it's not like he dropped him. It's not like he, bludgeoned him to death. It wasn't like he was hitting him. He was hitting him, and those actual punches looked legitimate. Him bunching up against the fence was legitimate. But the punch that actually did the damage that caused the fight to be stopped and called due to the weirdness of the stoppage was a fucking scrape to the eye. And mind you, we just had a situation with Tom Aspinall not too long ago, except it was him that suffered it and not in the fight. One man said he could not see and did not, was unable to continue fighting. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. In this situation, it was one eye, thankfully, but like one eye that had been obviously, poked, scratched, whatever you want to call it. Like you could see it in the replay, and for some reason, Ante Delia just like throws his fingers into his eyes. I don't know if it was meant to be a parry. I don't know if it was like meant to like grab his face or push on his face or whatever, but his fingers were out, straight up going into Costa's eyes, and I don't. I don't want to say that he meant to poke him in the eye because I don't believe that most of these things are done on purpose. I think it's a lot of the times things happen, shit gets unresolved, and fighters take advantage of shitty situations sometimes. In this one, the fighter who got fouled actually got given the opportunity to come back and win. And here's the truth of the matter: is that like I think that's kind of fair. Hey, you poked me in the eye, dude. That's not what I signed up for. I signed to fight you in a ruled, sanctioned fight. And if I get poked in the eye and that leads to a stoppage, I should at least have the opportunity to protest it. He ended up having the opportunity to come back in. Should they have had the clock going? And I think they actually did have the clock going once they realized that the injury occurred, right? If I'm not mistaken. Herb Dean and I think another ref on the outside actually caught the eye poke, and they were like, "Oh shit!" Like when you have a stoppage and you have the ability of replay to look at the fight finishing sequence as you do, the best case scenario is that you should be able to review the fucking thing. Now it sucks for the guy who just thought he won, because he was actually going back and forth and they were landing on each other, and then all of a sudden this fucking flurry of punches comes in and Ante Delija should have his hand raised, and that's the end of the fight. Unfortunately, you have a foul. And if I'm Ante Delija looking at this fight, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? No, I'm not fighting. I got the win. He called the fight. I protested immediately, even if that means they call it as a no contest because they tell me I have to now engage. Otherwise, this fight's not going to be a no contest. I'll take the no contest for me not wanting to fight because I should have already been awarded the win. I hurt him. You stopped it. The unfortunate part is that the thing that hurt him was the fucking eye poke. And since you chose to engage in the fight after you thought it was over, you still chose to engage. Would I tell my fighter to continue fighting? No, because the truth of the matter is we already won. But you chose to continue to fight. You chose to accept the conditions of the fight continuing, and the fact that both of you now have had the same amount of rest time. You may have had an adrenaline dump, but it is on you as a fighter to actually continue to fight if the fight is to continue, because
But
you
they
continue to
restarted it.
accept the conditions of the fight.
Well, see, hold on.
He accepted it, got
Yeah.
cracked, and got knocked the fuck out. I'm telling my fighter, this is why you don't engage if you're not ready. You put this on yourself. You accepted this condition.
This is
You accepted the fight. We could have said no and fought it in
here's
the
the
sanctioning bodies because the evidence was there. It is what it is. And it wouldn't have probably looked good on him, but still, he could challenge it if he wants to, but he accepted it. He has no one to blame but himself in his corner, apparently.
If we can just jump in there, if you say I'm not going to go out and fight after the referee tells you to fight, it's not a no contest, it's a DQ, it's a disqualification. You just lost your fight to the fight, Austin. Congratulations.
Here's where I gotta jump in the middle and play mediator because you're both technically right here. See, this is where the issue comes because now, Austin, to touch real quickly on something you said, they both had the break there. They both had the same amount of time of a break for the eye poke there. But the difference was Waldo Cortez Acosta had that break on a stool. Now, why did he have a stool during a break for an eye poke?
The fight was already stopped, was it not?
Well, the reason he was on a stool during a break for the eye poke is because the referee stopped this fight.
That's why you challenge it in the sanctioning body, because by the definition, if the fighter stops it, that the ref stops it, that should have been the thing. But he accepted that condition going back in. That's why.
And his cornerman came in with the stool because the fight was over. Now, during that moment, Mark Smith gets word, hey, this was an eye poke. And he does the new thing that these commissions are doing, the old switcheroo, where he realizes I have a split second here where I can make a decision to either stick with my initial call that this bout is over, or I could restart it. I could just restart this thing and I could right my blunder. Because the fact of the matter is, when that fight got called off and his Acosta's corner came in with that stool and he sat down on that stool and D'Elia goes over there to his corner, that fight is over. And at that point, it's a no contest. Even if you review the footage and you realize it ended due to an eye poke and it wasn't an actual TKO, the referee can use his discretion there and he can declare that a no contest. And they can end like that if he says it's done without malice, which it would have been deemed unintentional, so it would have been a no contest. But Mark Smith decided that he wasn't going to do that. He decided, I'm going to restart this fight, which he can't fucking do. He can't decide, I'm going to restart this after I stopped it. But he did anyway. And there's where it becomes the issue for D'Elia. Because like Danger Mouse said, when they go to restart that, when the ref says, okay, I'm restarting this, we're going to another round. If he says, no, you stopped it, I won this, I'm not coming back out, then it becomes a fucking disqualification and he fucking loses. So it's like, you cornered him into having to continue to fight, even though he did foul, and rightfully, Acosta should have got ruled a no contest. Like, the referee and the commission completely fudged this for both fighters on both sides. And this is becoming an ongoing fucking problem. This is now 4 fights in recent weeks that they've done this exact thing on, where they have stopped a fucking fight and restarted it. We can't make up fucking rules, guys. I don't understand. It's blowing my fucking mind. And like, I'm literally to the point, like, this isn't even a sport. It's not a fucking sport. It's driving me fucking insane.
It doesn't help that the commissioner's on the thing where he's like during the call, like, oh yeah, because he got poked in the eye and they're reviewing it, Mark Smith wants to restart the fight. Like, no, if the rule is it's stopped, the fight is stopped, regardless of whether what the outcome should be. The fight has been called. You cannot restart a fight due to, oops, I made a mistake. And that's okay. Like you said, Lazy, the whole point is stick to the call. But then if you have the ability to review the call, then you can change the call to a no contest because it was accidental. Like, it wasn't like,
right,
oh, he knocked him out and, oh, he actually fucking need him illegally or some shit,
You can't restart it though. Like,
that's the thing.
The rule, even to the most basic form of the rule, it says you can only go to replay review in the event of a fight-ending foul or a fight-ending sequence. Fight ending. They went to replay review because of a fight-ending sequence. You can't restart a fight that has ended. It's just, what the fuck, dude? Am I losing my mind?
That's why if I'm into Delicia, I should have had the opportunity to review or not review, but the challenge of the call. So, like, to continue. That's
in his
that
case,
should be their right.
In his case, if I'm D'Elia's corner, I'm telling him, you refuse to go out. You take the DQ, and we will take this. We'll take this to the fucking commission. We'll take this to whatever governing body we have to dispute this thing to the highest fucking court of the law, if we can, because there is not a fucking world where he should have had to go back out there and restart the fight because the referee said, "Oh, I fucked up. I'm gonna undo this. I'm gonna do a whoopsie daisy mulligan."
Yeah, because the minute you agree, you no longer have a case.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
He's fucked
Yeah, that's
now.
the problem.
He's done. He's toast. He just lost that fight. He's like, oh god, nah, whatever. Take a breath, bed. Take a
Woo saw,
breath.
lazy. Woo saw. Usually I'm the one that has to kind of be calmed down.
It's like I don't even fucking gamble. If I gambled, I'd probably blow my brains out. That's just it is what it is.
That's fair. That's fair. Thank God you don't.
Yeah, and I never will after this. You can count on that. Now I got that out of my system. Now on to the thrill of victory. Mouse, you are Waldo Cortez Acosta. 1 minute, you are in a fight. You're going toe to toe, and the next thing you know, you get your eye gouged out rather, and the fight is being stopped. You're screaming, you're writhing in pain, which he literally fucking was. Several minutes go by, and suddenly you have a second chance. How much are you valuing this comeback win? How do you give yourself full credit in this situation? And how do you walk away from this thing feeling?
Okay, I have to put a quote in from the Discord on this one. It said, between the Delilah Aspinall friendship and the eye poke duality, this is one of the funnier timelines in MMA. I've added the in MMA. And that was from our good friend Dr. Daz Riccio over in Hawaii. Yeah, very funny bit of commentary there. Funny fight, this one. I actually was going to pick Acosta, but that might have partly been because I was hoping that Delilah would lose, and that was for the sake of the heavyweight division, because we've all heard that Tom was planning on stepping aside if necessary for his mate. So it's far better that we don't end up in that situation at all. So sorry, Ante. Shout out to our editor who did go for Salsa Boy. Only one of us who did. Huge size advantage for Waldo. As you said, we had a sudden flurry that seemed to end the fight. And then we saw the eye poke, the chaos that ensued. Now, I actually put down that I think that Mark Smith actually pulled a bit of a, forgive the pun, a bit of a blinder by not waving the fight over, because the ending a fight is only done by that distinct, like that horizontal wave of a referee's arms. And I don't believe he did it. So that fight was never over. And controversial opinion here, I actually like the way this fight turned out with the replay and it being allowed to start. We get replays in a lot of sports. You get football. I presume you get it in gridiron, American football. I know for a fact you get it in cricket, where you can review what happened, whether it's foul or not. Whether you were out or not. So I actually don't mind that at all. I agree it's not in the rules. Officially, this fight should have ended when you call for a replay. But we ended up with a fantastic result, for at least for Waldo Acosta, and a very entertaining part of the show for us to talk about. And I'm going to say something else on this one, because Acosta did. I put down 5 minutes. I didn't know how long he'd actually spent on the stool, but I know when he chose to continue, I know this is something that all the Tom Aspinall haters will be absolutely fixed on, because Waldo obviously chose to continue. And I agree, on the surface, this looks like a repeat performance of last week's main event. And all credit to Waldo for fighting on and getting the fantastic KO. But Waldo is trying to get a shot at the belt that Tom already has. Now, he was mad as hell when the fight restarted. That was not a cool, calm, and collected decision by Waldo Cortez Acosta there. That was just Acosta embracing the dark side and fighting with the rage and pain in his heart and eye to get himself the win. That man is a danger. He's another big guy that I know we said two fat guys at the apex, but he does actually move pretty well. I wouldn't put him on the same tier as Aspinall and Gann, obviously, but he does have more athleticism than a lot of his fat guys at the apex peers.
Yeah.
And presuming that Tom beats Cyril Gann next in the next fight when they meet again, Acosta is actually the next top 10 guy that Tom hasn't fought. Almeida's technically the next guy. He's in fifth position at the moment. But after his last performance, we know that Jailton Almeida is not getting the title shot anytime soon. And so if Acosta does have to fight again. I actually did some matchmaking on this one, Lazy. The one fight I actually did. If he does have to fight again, either Curtis Blades or Alexander Volkov would make sense because he's already lost to Sergey Pavlovich, who I think he's at number 3 or something. So if it was a number 1 contender shot between him and Volkov, that would make sense, I think. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was on a title trajectory prior to that loss to Sergey. I mean, he had won 5 in a row, and he was getting injected into a lot of title talks. And I do agree, he is one of the more athletic heavyweights in the division. If I'm not mistaken, he's the one who, I don't know if it was professional level or like higher minor league level, but he used to be a pitcher in baseball.
Yeah,
at his size, which is, it's pretty fun. She explains how he throws those fucking fastball punches too.
Exactly.
So.
Yep.
But yeah. I mean, I think that we've said about enough about this one, but it's a weird one because in the end, I think it was the right result. I think that it's good that Acosta was given the opportunity to continue and to right the wrong and get the win because he was eye poked and it was clear as day. But at the same time, by the rules and by the book, it's completely fucking screwed up that they did this to Ante. And it's just, I agree with you also that if they changed the rule and they made the rule that in the event of, say, a fight altering foul, the replay official can review the foul and, if the fighter elects to continue, the at referee's discretion, they can continue the bout. Like, I think that's a reasonable thing, but as it stands, that's not the fucking rule. So like, I just don't like this new trend they have of like, it seems like if they get a result they don't like, they can just restart it. And that's fucked up. Like, I don't really
Or
like that.
someone telling them that they don't like the result and they adjust the call accordingly. That's kind of the bigger concern.
4 times in like the last month and a half is too much. I mean, it happened in the Jake Matthews Neil Magny fight. It happened in just like fucking, I mean, it's happened so often. It's getting out of control. Anyway. So now this time for real, guys, finally, bros, it is our main event for this grand return to the warehouse. Featherweights went at it when the cage door was locked behind number 12, Steve Garcia, and number 13, David Onama. Well, at least Garcia went at it. Onama just kind of sat there and watched, basically. At 3:34 into round number 1, the Mean Machine put it on Onama to get the TKO stoppage win. After the fight, he would call out Max Holloway, which is completely stupid, but whatever. That's neither here nor there, to quote Austin. So he gets the victory and the glory. And he also gets the first word from Danger Mouse. So, sir, you are repping Steve Garcia here, the man fighting out of Jackson Wink. You move up to 19-5 and are now on a 7-fight win streak. You also slot yourself into the spot for the 3rd most featherweight KOs in UFC history. If you could have got into Steve's ear, who would you have had him call out rather than Max Holloway? And what do you think of his odds versus the top 5 at featherweight?
Ooh. Well, Mean Machine. Yeah, this was just fight. This was just a fight that was over just too quickly. This looked like a total mismatch to me. Mean Machine indeed. I'll put down in my notes. Because Garcia just stalked Onama down, and once he had him hurt, he did not give him any chance to recover. That was one of the most frantic finishers I think I ever remember seeing in the UFC. Garcia was just chasing around the cage until he eventually hurt Onama with a front kick to the body, I think, and that allowed him to swarm all over him and get the finish. I did look at the stats, and Onama landed 2 of 16 strikes in the entire fight. But I did actually do some matchmaking for this one. For Garcia's future, if it was up to me matchmaking, I would either put him in there with Josh Emmett, who was another slanging and banging fighter. That could be fun. And one that might either appeal to or really, really fucking annoy Lazy, Jean Silva. That would be another great scrap for him.
I've heard both those names bandied about. I also heard a lot of Patricio Pitbull talk.
Yes, of course, yeah. But yeah, great performance by Steve Garcia there. Stupid call out. I don't know why you call out Max Holloway, but obviously, Max is now a lightweight and never going back down in weight again. We know that.
And you're not getting max, and you're also not getting a BMF fight. Like, what are you doing here?
No, not a chance.
But
Yeah, great.
you got to hand it to him, though. I was gonna say 7-fight win streak is impressive in any weight class, and especially featherweight, where we know there's tough competition. So, yeah. All right. Well, our last bit of agony for today. No special. Speaking on behalf of David Onama, another former James Krause fighter. Oh, I already did that part, motherfucker. Anyways, you fall to 14-3. You fall to 14-3, 6-3 in the UFC, and you drop one to one of your better qualified opponents. What is your thought on the game plan here? How could you have changed the outcome? And where do you go after handedly dropping your first main event?
God. Where do I begin? Fight wasn't long, but damn did it tell us a lot, especially about Steve Garcia, but also probably more so about David Onama. A theory that I was kind of being walking, or a theory I had found out about David Onama is something that I think I heard from another podcast. I believe Heavy Hands might have alluded to it. I don't know if David Onama has the ability to see punches coming at him. And I mean that sincerely, because a lot of the times he's in scraps, he doesn't really handle the punches coming back at him very well. He kind of looks like, oh, I didn't even know that hit me. Holy shit. Like, like a bee that's like flying around your head where you're just kind of like dipping and ducking, realizing that it's there only after it's there. Like, a lot of the times it feels like he kind of sees the punches hitting him and then reacts like he never saw them. And that's kind of what I was looking at the beginning exchanges when Steve is kind of throwing those strikes at him, and Onama's just like, okay, ow, 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 okay. He gets one back, but immediately eats several more, and that's what leads him to getting stunned. Like, he saw the strikes coming. It makes me wonder if he needs LASIK surgery or fucking contacts or maybe something like that. Like, because it's like, he fights like he has to physically touch you before finding his range. And not like, oh, I'm throwing a jab out to kind of measure myself. No, he has to physically make contact with you. And then he has some kind of game plan once he gets into the clinch and stuff like that. Like, that's what it looks like. And a lot of the times, like even like some of the guys that he's fought that are smaller than him, he has to do that. And it's weird to me that a guy that is capable like him, like David Onaba is just allowing strikes to freely rain on him half the time in his fights. That's kind of like a concern I would have. And that's just me being an onlooker. I wouldn't have thought anything of it until I heard that. And I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense, because that's kind of his fight style, is to kind of go in there, swing and bang a little bit and grapple a lot, because he's actually pretty capable when it comes to the grappling department. It's when he's out on his feet that he seems to struggle. And a lot of the times he seems to be willing to strike when he's in disadvantaged, positions. And I mean, if you're looking at a positive from this fight, you could just say, hey, it was your first main event. It didn't go your way, but you're entertaining enough and young enough to where you can come back and you can get a couple more. I don't think he should face anybody within anywhere of an earshot of the top 15 anytime soon. And again, just rattle off some names from the lower top 40 of the division, and you could probably find 4 featherweights that he could probably beat within a year's time and find himself back in the conversation of knocking on the door of the top 15. But until then, he needs to figure out his range game, because if it's not the eyesight and it's him misjudging and mistiming stuff, I don't really have a good sense of where his career could be. He's 31, right? Or 30, like we're around there. He's not super old, but he's not getting younger. At a bare minimum, he has to home in his skills a little bit better, because Garcia is not the best featherweight out there, despite what some of us may have think. Being on a 7-fight win streak still, it's just like he may have found his rhythm and his game, and it's working against lesser competition. Onama, I thought, was a better fighter coming into this, and it's proving that he's having to probably rethink his career now. Hopefully for the better, but we'll see. There's nothing you could say that's positive about it other than that, like, hey, you got beat by a guy who was on a run. It is what it is. You'll find another couple of guys. We just got to home in some stuff, or probably get some corrective surgery, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting take. I'm glad you pointed that out, that they brought it up on their show, because I hadn't considered that. That's something you don't really think about with a lot of fighters, but I bet you it's a problem that goes on more often than we think. Just standard vision issues. It's weird.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I think that'll just about do it for that main event there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Steve Garcia going forward. Certainly on a big win streak, so maybe big things lie ahead for him in the future. But what lies ahead for us is a very brief, a very abbreviated version of the best of the rest, because we are running short on time. So luckily, Austin doesn't really have one. I don't really have one, but I think Danger Mouse has one, maybe even two that he wants to bring up quickly. So Danger Mouse, why don't you hit us with your best of the rest?
The first one I have to bring up is the middleweight fight between Dante Johnson and Cedric Dumas. I did not make the mistake of picking against the O in this fight. Pretty good performance by Dante Johnson. Not at all what I expected from him, as he changed up and turned into a wrestler. It was literally, his corner went to him, "Oh, you're a wrestler now." Earned his first submission win by guillotine choke. Apart from a couple of crazy kicks on the ground, Dumas was not impressive. And he seemed really eager to tap before the choke went in. And this was the fight I thought that people might be talking about, them they thought might have been rigged. But obviously I got that wrong. But yeah, great performance by Dante Johnson, 7-0. Yep, go.
Remember, just to butt in real quick there, remember, I did say two other fights on this card were flagged, so you might be onto something.
Okay, yeah. He had his hand up. Where even DC spotted it. It was like, why is he going? He's ready to tap, and then you saw him. He saw Dante Johnson put his hand down on the canvas, so there wasn't a choke going in at all. And then 2 seconds later he tapped. But yeah, controversy on that one. And the other one had to be at light heavyweight: Billy Elicana versus Kevin Christiansen. Kevin Christian, because after getting his leg beaten up for most of the round. Elicana landed an absolutely peachy left hook, dropped Christian, began raining down blows wherever he could. Definitely one or two went to the back of the head. And then he jumped on, took Christian's back, managed to flatten him out, sinks into the rear naked choke. And it was referee Chris Tognoni who was controlling this fight. And he's trying to get a view and see what's happening. So he drops down to the canvas and he's looking underneath to see whether the choke's in or not. And he finds himself completely on the wrong side of the action. He doesn't see Christian frantically tapping on the canvas because he can't reach his body he can't reach Elicana's body to tap that. So Elicana doesn't know he's tapping. Chris Tognoni doesn't know he's tapping. And then, of course, Christian eventually ends up taking a bit of a nap. But no harm done. And this is a type of finish. It does not matter when it's too late. It's not like it was raining blows down him, causing CTE. He cut off the blood to his brain for a few seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. No harm done. A bit confused during World Cup, but yeah, this is just funny for the Chris Tognoni thing. But also, Chris Tognoni, somewhere in this fight, I think was warning them about having their fingers up in the air. So that was a nice little sign from him. And yeah, that's it from the. I was desperately looking for a women's flyweight fight so I could mention Dakota, but there was nothing at that weight, so I couldn't.
Go figure. Big surprise, big shocker. Yeah, there's some fishy business in both of those, or at least one of those fights there. The Dumas fight, I think that's going to be probably looked at and discussed further. And just I think overall it was a pretty interesting night of fights, to say the least. Interesting for a variety of reasons. So, to put a capper on this very interesting card, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to grade this night of fights on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the least and 10 being the most. It's got to do better than last week's fiasco in Abu Dhabi, right? Right?
Oh, yes.
Maybe. I don't know. Probably. All right. So, gents, it's time, like I said, to rate that card. Okay, I'm going to go first because I'm just going to freestyle mine. Just very weird night, very strange night. I can't keep saying it. I can't keep repeating myself like a broken record, but these ongoings with the officiating, with the judging, with the commission work is just getting to be a bit too much. It's starting to really turn me off and really just turn me away, particularly from the UFC. I still find myself enjoying MMA on a global and regional level, but this UFC shit, man, it's just been a fucking fiasco lately. So, like I said, I have to rate it better than we rated Abu Dhabi, because we rated that worse than we rated the card before that. So, yeah, gotta bump it up a little bit, but I can't go much more than just average, even with the amount of finishes. So I guess I'll give this a flat out 5. That's what I'm gonna give it, a 5. And next, let's kick it to Danger Mouse. Danger Mouse, my brother. What do you rate this here return to the world famous UFC Apex?
Yeah, this was a decent card in many, many different ways. 14 fights. There were 8 result fights, 2 KOs, 6 submissions, I believe. 4 of those being rear naked chokes, ever the most popular submission in MMA. Rewatching some of it today, the main card was quite entertaining. It still wasn't the greatest card ever. The women's fights in the prelims were not the best ones in some respects, although a couple of decent ones probably there. Certainly the first one with the late finish. I'm waffling now because I'm desperately trying to figure a score out for this one. I have to score it more than last week. Am I going to be slightly more generous than lazy? I'm definitely going to be slightly more generous. I'm going to. I can't go 9-11, so I'll flip that upside down and we'll go 6-11.
Oh my!
All right. Well, let's pass it over to our one half of the Twin Towers. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Let's get past it to Austin. You're I don't know. You're not tall, so you're. It was a ironic nickname. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just digging a hole here. What was your rating from 1 to 10 for UFC Fight Night Garcia versus Onama?
I gotta think, man, if we're looking at this realistically, like the gymnastic score is probably like a 6 or a 7, like out of 10 when you first initially watch this fight and the possibilities that it could be. I didn't think anything until like you guys explained to me that there was some scandalous shit happening and that the co-main event also had its refereeing blunder, which also gives it like, I'll be honest, like as an Apex enjoyer, which I know it's a weird thing to say, but I generally like it when there's drama that pertains to the fight itself or business, like the commission having to do something or there being some kind of a betting scandal, because that adds to the ridiculousness of what we watch, man. Like if this was just your average Apex night, like you wouldn't have thought anything. Oh, Garcia is a guy in the division now. All of a sudden, he's handled David Onama. Some things happened also on the main event and the main card, and so throughout the rest of the fight night. But like those two things being on the main card, that gives you a lot of leeway to be like, oh damn, there's a lot to think about and unpack here. Like that gives us things to talk about. As much as I hate when BC says that, or it's like, oh, it's my part when I have things and stories to talk about because I need that desperately. I'm like, okay, sure, I don't really need that, but sometimes he's right, because like it happens when this adds another layer to the story, and that usually brings more content and things that we talk about. So it's like it's nice because otherwise sometimes there's not a whole lot to talk about in these fight nights. So 7 out of 10 for me.
It's pretty generous.
We have managed to get like 90 minutes out of it, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah. And I feel like I could go 90 more, but I think Dave and Chaudhry would kill me. Well, yeah, maybe not 90 because I do need a Bing rip after all this. So
yeah, I need a drink.
I think, yeah. And Austin needs to probably go do something, be a father or something like that. I don't.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
All right. Well, that's going to just about do it, gang. One more weekend roundup wrapped up and recapped. Was it the best card ever? No, it was not. But we sure had loads of fun discussing it. So hopefully you all did too. We're back at it again next week for another less than stellar night of fights from the Apex. And we'll be right here with you, breaking it all down. Until then, we thank you again for watching. Please do like the video and share it on your socials. They've been Austin and Danger Mouse. I've been LazyBed, and we'll be seeing you. Peace.
We out. See you next time.
We're there. Yeah!
All right, let's move it along because I can go all day. Finally, bros. Our main event for this grand return to the warehouse. Featherweights went at it when the cage door was locked behind number 12, Steve Garcia.
Don't I get a say on the Acosta fight here?
I was gonna say, yeah. I was like, wait a second.
Oh
yeah,
God,
he didn't
jeez.
get
All
to
right,
go.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, see, I told you, I'm off kilter here. I'm
You got Lazy's all heated up and flying off the handle.
I'm sweating. I gotta take my hat off. I need a cigarette.
You said you had sweaty palms before this. You
Yeah,
need to take a break. Have a Tylenol. You're not pregnant, are you?
If I take a Tylenol, I'm definitely gonna get autism. All right. Okay, yeah. Rewind. We'll just put that in the bloopers section. Okay.
Lazy. Like, is that a fair word? Like, intentionally lazy.
Yeah, we're way over time. Stop worrying about that.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I swear to God, this cat. Like, what the fuck?